Breaking news just in. And in fact, this is an exclusive information available with CNN News 18. The HRD Ministry has released the first draft on a national innovation and startup policy in 2019. Now, this policy aims to use higher education institutions to bolster entrepreneurship. Now, if passed, it will require higher education institutions to set up facilities to offer on-campus incubation support to fledgling businesses. Student entrepreneurs will get credit to work on business models, get attendance waivers, and in fact will be allowed to take a semester or year off. In return for their services, institutions will take between 2% to 9.5% equity in startup businesses as well. Let's go across to Uday, who's getting this news for us. You know, Uday, the Prime Minister has given a push for startups. There's a lot of push and focus and stress now on what is called specialized education. Is this what the HRD Ministry is working at?
Absolutely, Pallavi. You know, this is the next step of the whole Startup India idea, because this is taking the idea of Startup India to college campuses. This is why the HRD Ministry has been tasked to come up with the innovation and startup policy. Let me go over some of the finer points of this policy. The first draft of the policy that was released late last evening. Minimum 1% of an institution's budget will be allocated for promoting startups. The budget will be set aside, minimum 1%. It can be more also depending on the kind of institution that it is. For example, in an engineering institution, it might end up being more. All higher education institutes will set up facilities to offer incubation support to fledgling businesses. As you know, that for a new business, for any new startup, the incubation and pre-incubation stage, where a startup founder looks for funding for his or her business, is the most crucial stage. In that stage, they will be protected with the college environment. They will receive all the support necessary from the college. The student entrepreneurs, in this case, who are setting up their businesses on college campuses, will receive credit from the institution to set up their business model. They will get attendance waivers. They will be allowed to take a semester or even a year off to make sure that they can work on their business, and they will be allowed to use the address of their institute to register their business. What does the institute get out of it? It of course gets intellectual property rights, a part of intellectual property rights which will jointly own with any private investor that chooses to invest in the entrepreneur's business. But also they will get 2 to 9.5% equity. So the institution is not just investing in a student, it is also getting a return on that investment by getting a part of the equity of that business. So this really is the big push by the Modi government to make sure that entrepreneurship is encouraged on campus. You know, apart from that, a lot of other things have been instituted in this policy, and these institutions will have to adopt these principles if this policy is adopted. This also includes, of course, institutes being required to hire staff with experience in starting businesses, and networking events will be held on campus to make sure that students can very easily talk to people who may be potential investors and seek funding for their businesses as well. Innovation and entrepreneur awards will be instituted to make sure that entrepreneurial spirit and innovation is rewarded on college campuses. This, however, is only the first draft. It remains to be seen how long before the HRD Ministry and the Government of India actually implements this policy, and how far this can have an impact. Because, you know, Pallavi, as you know, the government's consistent response to the unemployment crisis has been that this is an economy that promotes startups, and therefore this is the direction in which we want this to go.
And, you know, we're also talking about facts that we need more employment opportunities, and also there many academicians and experts, and you would know this better, who often complain of the fact that in India's education system we get stuck in this whole rote of, you know, graduation, post-graduation, degree after degree, which doesn't ensure the kind of interest a student may have or the line they may take up. You think this proposal is also aimed at that solution?
It certainly is. You know, Pallavi, when the new HRD minister was sworn in, just a couple of days after that, the first draft of the national education policy was brought in. Of course, the national education policy deals with the overarching education structure in India, but one of the points that it mentioned was that it wants to make higher education more employable. It wants to make students in higher education institutions more employable. That was one of the stated aims of the first draft of the new education policy, and this seems to be another step in that direction. So this is combining both the stated aim of the HRD ministry as far as the national education policy is concerned, and also the larger aim of the Modi government to bolster entrepreneurship rather than just generating employment as the means to make sure that the economic slowdown is averted, because the Prime Minister has often said that his aim is to create job creators and not job seekers, and perhaps this is an aim in that direction. However, how successful that is, it remains to be seen, because this is only a first draft. It has not yet been adopted by the government. Once that happens, then of course this will be implemented, and higher education institutions will be asked to implement all of the proposals of the National Innovation and Startup Policy in their respective institutions.
I know that wave off of a semester in a year, that sounds interesting. I wonder why we didn't have it during our times, but thank you very much, Uday, for getting us those details.